We're just so thankful to be here, as today is a significant day in the people's climate movement. Give some praise for that climate movement. We're about to undertake a march, but before we get marched, we're going to have some speakers come forward to get us kind of up on the edge so we can be prepared, and we must be ready so that we can let people know the message that we have from the different organizations. We're just so thankful for all the organizations that are here today. Give yourselves a hand one more time. And these are sign bearers. Give them a hand. They got their work cut out for them today. They're going to lead us on the march, and they're going to lead us along the way, and then we're going to be right behind them chanting and singing and just letting people know that the message of climate change and climate justice is why we're here today. And each of our groups are doing the things that we do so that we can begin to address this monster the way it is and the crisis that's really going on in our nation and our communities, and we want to see a change come. Do you want to see a change come? So this evening, we've got a series of folk that have come forward. I'm going to ask all the speakers that have been designated to come forward now, and so you can be to the right of the podium, and we can move you to the podium expeditiously. And if those in the back, when folk come in who are speakers, just send them on up front. Be greatly appreciated. All right, now I got a few folk I already know are here, but some other folk I'm just trying to do a roll call. And so let me do a roll call for the folk I know are here. SEIU. Okay, now y'all guys here, now y'all can't be doing that. SEIU, give me a holler. All right, how about Sierra Club, give me a holler. Look like they got the house. All right, who else we got? Faith in Place. All right, don't leave me out there hanging. All right, how about we've got PCR. We got them here yet? Okay, here in 10 minutes. All right, when they come in, just open the door. Tell them to come in hollering. All right. All right, we've got the Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Group. All right. All right, we got NRDC. Are they in the house? All right, all right. Now, this is the trick. If a group looks like they need some help, you give them some help. I ain't counting who you are. Just give them some help now. You can tell if they need some help. All right. Fight for 15. Are you in the house? Eco Campus, UIC. Give them some help. All right. Union for Concerned Scientists, are you in the house? How about Systems Change, Not Climate Change? Are you in the house? All right. NEIS, are you in the house? All right. All right, I think. Iron, are you in the house? All right. All right. Jobs with Justice, are you in the house? One North Side, are you in the house? Help him out, come on. All right. National Nurses United, are you here in the house? And when the people for community recovery come in, tell them we got to have a special holler from them. Did I miss anybody? Anybody else? Give me a holler! We want to make sure everyone signs in and takes care of that business, and you also should have a candle. Now, does everybody have a candle? If you don't have a candle, raise your hand. We're going to make sure you get one. I got a couple up here in the front need a candle. All right, now I'm going to tell you this. This is not a traditional church, and we are thankful. This is a traditional church, but the traditional church has opened up its doors to us, and I want to make sure that, again, so folk, if you got a little space in between you, why don't you scoot in a little bit? Let's make sure we're at home. Scoot in a little bit, move over, let folk kind of come on in, so that we can don't spread out too much. I don't want to be hitting no air. All right, we're so thankful this evening to be here, and we're on a clock because we want to make sure we hit the streets in an appropriate time and with a great fashion. And we're going to start off this evening with Mark Milby, who's going to come forward with a welcome from Old St. Pat's. Give him a hand of encouragement.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you to Faith in Place, and thank you everyone who's here. My name's Mark, and I just want to welcome you to beautiful Old St. Patrick's Church. Let's give Old St. Pat's a hand. How wonderful to see such a diverse group of organizations come together, all to unite our voices for concrete action on climate change. Pope Francis recently said that our time can no longer ignore this issue, climate change. It's vital to man's survival, and we cannot reduce it to merely a political question. So I happen to work for an environmental nonprofit here in the Loop, and I can tell you firsthand that although the fight has perhaps never been more fierce, and although it may seem like politics could just win the day out, I assure you there is a powerful undercurrent of progress at work. Yeah. Despite what you might hear from Congress these days, people are listening. Did you know that 4 out of 5 business leaders in America support renewable energy? Or how about that well over 3/4 of Americans and half of self-described conservative Republicans believe the climate is changing and that humans are contributing? How about that the U.S. has increased our solar energy by 4,000% in the last 10 years? For years, we have been seeing unprecedented local level responses from across the country, and despite what happens at the federal level, we have to keep this up. Part of why we need diverse groups like this to come together today is because climate change isn't just an environmental problem. In fact, if I could summarize Laudato Si, Pope Francis's new encyclical, the whole thing in just one word, it would be connectedness. He says it over and over again. Everything is connected. Quote, the human environment and the natural environment deteriorate together, and we cannot adequately combat one without addressing the other. And so I say we all march side by side, and we work with optimism and diligence toward our best solutions. So I'm proud to say that Old St. Pat's has begun to answer this call. Our recently formed Green Team is considering how we can spread this message across Chicago, and we've taken steps in partnership with Faith in Place to increase energy efficiency and reduce waste. Chicago's own Archbishop has called acting to help the climate a moral issue for the Catholic Church. We have to realize, he says, in all our humility, that we have this earth on loan. But of course, there is more for all of us to do, and we must maintain our hope. As we walk today, I urge you not to look around and say, is anyone listening to us? Right. Instead, look to your left and look to your right and say, my brother and my sister, they're listening to me. And I urge you to say, instead of looking up, instead of looking up and say, will anyone do anything? I urge you to instead call your representative and tell them I'm doing something. All right. So, I promise you, this transition to this revolution begins and ends with action, and action begins and ends with you and me. So on behalf of Old St. Patrick's Church, I welcome you here as we join in solidarity with hundreds of thousands of brothers and sisters from around the globe as we walk in the People's Climate March. Thank you.
Let me hear you holler one more time. Holler! Now, I realize that one of the things that I come out of a Lutheran tradition, but I also come from another tradition that I've learned in, and every now and then the preacher has to say, "Can I get an amen?" Now, none of these speakers should say to us who have gathered today, "Can I get an amen?" The amen should be just flowing. Because we have gathered today, and many of us who are out here in the field, out here in the trenches, know how hard it is to garner and gather people around this issue. And now we're all in the room together, and I'm saying, while you have the chance, while you have folk with you, you ought to holler and just say thank you for environmental justice. Come on. We're just so thankful next to have on the docket Brother Jack Darren from the Sierra Cub, who's going to make a special introduction.
Thank you, Pastor. Who's here to act on climate tonight? When we act on climate change, not only are we doing the right thing for future generations, but we've got the chance to create millions of jobs and huge new economic opportunities, but we have to get that part right. We have to provide for a just transition for our workers to the clean energy economy, and we have to make sure that the new jobs we create, the new economic opportunities that we bring, come to the communities and the people that need them most, that have been passed over by other economic innovations. And to do that, it's critical that we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in organized labor, not only in our shared struggle to confront the climate crisis, but also in our shared struggle for a worker's right to organize and for living wages. That is why we are so fortunate to be joined tonight in this struggle and in this effort by a real American leader for worker justice and for living wages from the Service Employees International Union, Tom Balanoff. Tom? Thanks for being here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's hear another whoop. Come on. Hey! On behalf of Service Employees Local 1, the Service Employees Illinois Council, and the Service Employees International Union, the largest union in this country, I am happy and proud to stand here with all of you to put the word out that we need environmental justice, and we need it now. All over the country, environmentalists, labor and community activists, religious organizations and student organizations today, all over the country, are demanding action, are demanding that we have clean air, are demanding that we have clean water, are demanding that we have clean jobs, and are demanding that once and for all we need real climate justice in this country and in this world. I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud that SCIU is at all those meetings throughout the country. It's been too long that the labor movement and the environmental movement, it's been too long that we haven't come together and we haven't understood our mutual interest. First of all, our interest in keeping a healthy world for all of us. I will tell you that working people throughout this country, and quite frankly, for that matter, throughout this world, pay the biggest price for an unhealthy environment. While millions of people suffer the worst impacts of pollution and climate change, particularly people of color, a handful of people and a handful of companies are getting rich. They're getting rich at polluting our environment. There's a lot of ways to get rich. That's the wrong way to get rich, brothers and sisters. I'm preaching, excuse the pun, I'm preaching to the choir here when I talk to you about big oil. Big oil that is making record profits. The CEO, not only the companies, but their CEOs. The CEO of ExxonMobil made $33 million last year, in 1 year. And how do they make that money? By extracting fossil fuels. And what's that doing to our environment? It's making it more and more unhealthy, to a point, brothers and sisters, that we're going to have trouble reversing what we're doing to the world. That's why it's time that we all stand together. all the labor movement, all workers, all communities, all religions stand together in support of our environment. You know, it's amazing when you think about big oil, because not only they make these huge profits, they pay very little tax on them, and then we as citizens end up subsidizing their operation. $4.8 billion in tax subsidies to big oil. So think about this. These companies make obscene profits. They really do. Obscene profits. And how do they do it? By extracting fossil fuels, which we all know makes the world a less safe and less healthy place. They pay very low taxes. We subsidize them. What's wrong with this picture? That's not the way things are supposed to work, and particularly not supposed to work when there's an industry that is getting rich by making our world less and less healthy. That's wrong, brothers and sisters. That's why we all have to unite. And you know, they have not only poisoned the environment, but quite frankly, they've poisoned our political system. Citizens United, maybe you heard of the case, maybe you didn't. The Supreme Court decided that corporations were now individuals, and they've allowed a few elites and many big corporations to pump millions of dollars into politics. They've distorted politics in this country. Big oil has put in over $250 million in the last 10 years into politics. And why did they put that in? Because they want to stop the movement for a clean environment. They want to stop the movement for a clean jobs bill. And they want to protect their profits. That's why they're involved in politics. And those same political dollars, those same political forces are used to undermine not only our environment, but to undermine workers' rights and to undermine unions' ability to stand up for working people. Those are the same forces. They have the same politics. That's why we need to understand that our goals are the same, that our struggle is the same. We need to be hand in hand fighting for a clean environment. And brothers and sisters, we in the labor movement, we need to go to the rest of the unions. We need to challenge the labor movement. This is not about a handful of jobs in the process of putting pipelines in. This is about the future for all of us. This is about the future for working people having safe and healthy places to work, safe and healthy places to live. So brothers and sisters, it's time for us to stand up and demand that the politicians start looking out for the everyday people. Demand that Governor Rauner speak up and stand up and support the Clean Power Plan. Today, we got memos we're sending out. Get those to Governor Rauner. Brothers and sisters, there are people not only all over this country, but all over this world who are standing up and really taking a hard position. And it's time that we demand a clean energy policy for this country and for this world. And brothers and sisters, a clean energy plan will create a new generation of good jobs, of jobs that sustain our environment, of jobs that sustain our communities, jobs that sustain our families, and most importantly, to all of us here, we know that we need to make these changes so that we leave a better, safer, and healthier world for our children and generations to come. I'm proud to be here. I'm going to be with you, and our union is going to be with you in every step of this struggle. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters.
All right. The answer is climate justice. What do we want? Climate justice. When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? I can't hear you. What do we want? When do we want it? All right, come on, give me praise. We're just so thankful now to have a representative, Sister Cheryl, from People for Community Recovery. Give her a hand of encouragement as she comes forward.
Good evening, y'all. How we doing? What do we want? What did we want it? Right on. I'm with People for Community Recovery, and I'm clear to understand it is our responsibility, our commitment, and our dedication to ensure that we have climate justice for all. I mean, all people from all walks of life should have the right to breathe clean air. I live in public housing. I live in Allgale Gardens on the far south side of Chicago. My mother labeled my community toxic donut because we live in the center of the donut and outside the perimeter, we got all kind of polluting entities. This is the greatest opportunity that we ever had in our life. So we want to salute the President of the United States for coming up with the Clean Power Plan. Because it's going to reduce a lot of the carbon emissions that we experience in our community and the communities around this country all the time. And they got to change. You know, it's ironic, my mother was labeled, she was called the mother of environmental justice. And been working with her for nearly 30 years. I almost memorized her speech. And I remember nearly 30 years ago, she was saying, if we don't change the way these industries works in our community, we're gonna have a change in the weather pattern. We're gonna see where it was drought, is flood, and vice versa. And we're gonna see a lot of hospital people having asthmatic attack. And she said she called it change in the weather pattern. Is what these chemicals doing to our environment. Today, we're talking about climate change. So she was dead on. And not being educated about it, it was her mother whipped because she cares about, she knew something was going wrong and she had to speak about it. You don't have to be an expert to know that there's pollution in your community. That's right. You don't have to be a scientist to say something is wrong. Common folks like you, me, and us that's here today, we're going to fight for climate justice and we're going to win. Are we? And just like I said, the President Obama for taking the boldest step ever to create a clean power plan that reduces our dependency on fossil fuels. He is saying to corporate polluters that our lives matter. Our time spent in hospital for asthma attack will decrease. And he's saying that we have a right to engage in how we generate energy, and we want solar and renewable energy in every poor neighborhood. We want everyone, especially low-income families, to have the first crack at the training and the jobs that will be created through these new avenues. You know, so I'm just saying, climate justice is for everyone, and it's here right now. We got to take it because our lives matter. And I just want to say, we had limits on mercury, arsenic, lead, soot, and other dangerous pollutants, but not on carbon emission. Why? When it's the key drivers of climate change. We want the United States to be the global leader in this climate justice meeting in Paris this coming December. Our voice must be heard. And then we have to say to our governor that our life matter when it comes to climate justice. We are here in numbers and so forth to say that our government wait a minute, I just messed up, y'all, didn't I? I am not let me tell you something right now. I am not the scripted person. It comes from my heart because it's about our lives. So I can't read from this, y'all. I'm gonna take it from the hip. Can I do that? Because climate justice is important, not only to me, but for everyone that's sitting in here today. Because we got to make these policies work, because we the people. It's not them, it's not corporate America, because at the end of the day, we got to go to the poll and vote for these folks. And we're going to make it be heard. And we should make this part of the agenda in this presidential election that's coming up, because we got to make sure that this is on the coffee table, at the discussion tables, everywhere about our quality of life. Because we're talking about quality of life, y'all. How many of us, it's enough that we go buy bottled water. Can we afford to buy air? Clean air. And the bottom line is justice for us is justice for everybody. Injustice is injustice, and we're going to fight for it. Thank you.
If you were standing where I'm standing right now and looking at what I see, I'd tell you that what I see is this is what democracy looks like. What does this look like? This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Can you say that? This is what democracy looks like. 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 Come on. And now we're going to have Brooke Adams come forward from Iron Student Network. Give them a hand of encouragement.
Hey everyone, I'm Brooke and I'm from Iron Student Network and U Chicago Climate Action Network. I'm originally from Seattle, where people talk a lot about how lucky we are to live in a climate refuge. Unlike the rest of the nation, the Pacific Northwest is not likely to experience severe consequences from rising sea levels and rising temperatures. So more and more people are moving to Seattle as they begin to feel the oncoming threat of climate change. But as the population grows, so does the cost of living. In my lifetime, I've seen Seattle transform into a place where only the rich can afford to live. Referring to Seattle as a climate refuge is incredibly misleading because a refuge is traditionally an all-inclusive place of shelter. And if Seattle is a climate refuge, it's a refuge that only protects the rich. We're told, get rich or get out. And as young people in particular, we're told to accept the grim reality of a dog-eat-dog world where clean air and clean water are no longer basic human rights, but a privilege that only the rich deserve to have. And if we try to challenge this, we're told that we're idealists and that we won't be productive, that we have to make change through small victories that can only buy us some more time. And we're told that climate change is so hopeless, so inevitable, that the best thing to do is accept that we can only fight for our individual survival. And that ain't right. The people preaching these narratives are wealthy owners of fossil fuel corporations who don't have to live through the consequences. They're robbing our generation of what we deserve. And their narrative of pragmatism only serves to widen the gap between the rich and the poor and keep young people voiceless. But right now, Illinois has a huge opportunity to invest in our generation through President Obama's Clean Power Plan. The US EPA's historic ruling regulates carbon pollution from the dirty power plants that drive climate change. The Clean Power Plan forces fossil fuel corporations to take our futures into account instead of focusing solely on increasing their profits. Everyone in my generation will be affected by climate change, so I call on Governor Rauner to stand up for young people across Illinois by implementing the Clean Power Plan in a strong and just way. Thanks.
Amen. Thank you. At this particular time, now we're going to have David and Michelle come forward to talk about the social media action. Is that right? Okay.
All right. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so if everyone could take out the sheets that you were given when you came in with all the social media acts, we want to draw your attention specifically to the hashtags at the top. So if you guys are posting pictures, which you should be throughout the whole march, or any kind of tweets, Facebook, things like that, make sure you hashtag, especially People's Climate.
Make sure that you mention your governor. Make sure you mention the president. They need to hear from us. They're going to hear from all of us today here, aren't they? But they need to hear about us online too. They need to hear about us on Facebook. They need to hear about us on Twitter. They need to hear about us on YouTube. That's why we got something planned for you guys right now, what we got coming up. All right.
So if you guys can look to the bottom where it says chants and cheers, we're gonna kind of mix it up a little bit. So if you guys can pay attention, me and David are gonna practice it for you up here, and then we're gonna have everyone stand up, put up all your signs, as much energy as you can, and we're gonna videotape it and tweet it at Governor Rauner. Do you guys think you can do that?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
All right, I'll call.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Whose air?
Our air.
Whose future?
Our future.
Whose health?
Our health.
Whose streets?
Our streets.
Governor
Rauner, take a stand. All right, do you guys think you can do that? All right, stand up.
And yeah, that last part is a little different. We improvised it a little bit, but that last part is Governor Rauner, take a stand. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a call and response. So up here, I'm gonna shout out a question, and I need you to shout that response back right at me as loud as you can. I am a public school teacher. I've been dealing with 15-year-olds all day, and I can tell you, you need to be a lot louder than them they were today. All right, let's do it. Whose air? Whose future? Whose health? Whose street? Governor Rauner, take a stand.
All right, all right. While you're on your feet, just stay. We're about to be able to move. I think, did we ever get, that was it, Brother Brian? Brian, that was it? We didn't? Okay. All right. All right. We're about to make what they used to say, bust a move. We're about to move on out of here.